Hello, everyone. My name is Stephen Murray, and welcome to The Gift of Giving. This is the program that focuses attention on foundations, nonprofits, and 501c3s here in the state of Nevada. These are the guests of the people who are making our state a better and brighter place for everyone. And today's guest is certainly no exception. I'd like to welcome Kelly Boyers. She's the Executive Director of Camp Cope Gives Hope. And also we have Jackie McLeod. She's the Certified Child Specialist and in charge of the Program Officer, correct? Chief
Correct.
Program Officer. So welcome both of you to the program. Thanks for taking the time out to be with us today.
Thank you for the opportunity.
So first of all, why don't you give us a brief overview of Camp Cope Gives Hope?
Right. Stephen, we founded Adams Place, which is the umbrella 501c3. We're a federally qualified charitable foundation in 2009 because there was a need for children to have support after losing a parent or sibling. Some of those kids fall through a safety net, right? When there's been an adverse childhood experience, what we call an ACE, we know any demographic child goes into an at-risk category, at risk for delinquency, more absenteeism, less healthy coping. So when we identified that they've had this experience, peer segmented support groups are response. And in our age segmented groups, which we call Camp Cope, kids learn age appropriate skills, expression of the many emotions with grief, and they start gaining tools on their tool belt for healthy coping. So Adams Place took a tough subject such as grief and made it into bite-sized topics so that we can all accept that we're learning and that grief can be growth. And we're dedicated to helping children ages 3 to 18 along that journey.
Gotcha. And what made you join the organization yourself, Jackie?
Well, I actually started as a volunteer with Adams Place about 10 years ago. And I volunteered to facilitate some of the grief support groups for Camp Cope. And so I really enjoyed my time with Camp Cope. I gained a lot as a volunteer. I was able to give back to the community and work with children. And because of my background as a child life specialist, and we specialize in child development and healthy coping skills, Kelly had asked me to become more involved and help with some training of volunteers and to help develop our program for the junior Camp Cope, which is our preschool age Camp Cope participants 3 to 5.
Boy.
And then after I worked on those kinds of projects with her, eventually I did come over as a full-time staff member.
Oh, good for you. Well, congratulations. You obviously enjoy it too.
I do.
It's very rewarding.
Yes.
Maybe not financially, but mostly it's probably rewarding. Well, no non-profits. If you work for non-profits, you're not in it for the money, that's for sure. And what made you get involved, Kelly?
In 2007, I lost my oldest son due to injuries sustained in a car crash. He left behind his only brother, who was 16 at the time, and I'm a teacher by my first degree, and I had no idea how to support my younger son, Alec. So I started looking at what was research indicated that was helpful to teens when they have experienced a death. And peer support group is far and away an effective way for children to feel connection, to normalize their feelings. They don't want to meet in the lunchroom with someone. They can't find each other as far as having like experiences in life. So I traveled the country and looked at different children's bereavement centers and came back to Las Vegas and said, we definitely need to put this together and have this as a response our community can have for children. And we opened during 2009, 2010 foreclosure crisis, where we were the number 2 in the country for adult suicide at that time. And so these children who were left behind from those death by suicide, we were there. And so we hit the ground running from that point forward. And our socials social safety net, right, is a slimmer one here in Nevada, but we still do have good collaborations and we do have programs. It's just that as our population grows, means we have to grow, right? We're the
Yes.
fifth largest school district in the country. We know statistically 5% of kids will lose a parent by the time they're 18. So that means at any given point, there could be 20,000 kiddos that have lost a parent in Clark County and may need support. Not all kids need a program like ours, but some do, and we want to be available for them.
Now, that's a frightening statistic, isn't it? You know, when you stop and think about it, it's awful. I'd like to talk a little bit about grief as an emotion because it is complex, and I think for children it's got to be very hard. I think probably most adults feel that you never really get over it. People always say, "Oh, it's time to get over it. It's time to get over." People take different times to grieve, as you well know, and you really learn to live with the loss. You don't get over it. You learn to live with the loss. How different is that for children? Let's start with you because you're the child specialist. So what did you learn? What surprised you most when you're dealing with kids that you had to grapple with and deal with what they're grappling and dealing with?
Yeah, I'm not sure what surprised me most, but I think sometimes the general perception is that children don't grieve or they don't grieve as deeply as adults. And I don't think that's true. I just think it looks a little bit different for kids. In the way that they grieve in little kind of, like Kelly said, bite-sized segments, they're dealing with those emotions and they may or may not have the language vocabulary or the coping skills, experience, or education to handle those things efficiently as an older child or an adult might. And so you kind of see them alternating between having those grief feelings and then returning to something that feels safe, like play. And it might seem like they're over it or they don't care, but it's just how they're coping, which looks very different from adult grief.
Yes, for sure. When you're dealing with children between 3 and 18, obviously a 3-year-old is going to deal with grief very different than a teenager who's in their formative years. Do you break these children up into age groups in your programs
Yeah,
to make it work?
absolutely. Our regular Camp Cope program serves children ages 5 through 18. We break them up into our littles, who are 5 to 8, middles 9 to 12, and our teens. And then we also run our junior Camp Cope program, which is for those preschool age kiddos 3 to 5.
Sure. Okay. Now, I'm sure children deal with grief in different ways, and we need to touch upon those. You know, there's probably anger and bewilderment and guilt, probably, confusion. When you've got these teenagers, let's just take the teenagers as a group. When you've got these teenagers in a group together, and one's expressing anger, another child might never have felt anger. Do you get it where some of that anger from the one child might rub off onto another? Or one child might have never felt guilty about anything, and all of a sudden he hears the guilt that another teenager's going through, and all of a sudden he feels guilty. Do you get that rubbing off of or transferring of emotions from one child to another?
I don't know if transferring, I think the word might be normalizing because typically we've all had little pieces of all those emotions, whether it's anger, bewilderment, guilt. In fact, we have one of our themes is shoulda, woulda, coulda. What do I do with guilt and regret? And that's our fourth themed Camp Cope group event. But kiddos are using the communication skill of listening to each other and finding that common bond. So if I'm listening to your story and I go, oh yeah, I felt that way too, then they make a connection and they feel more comfortable in group. Jackie, you can chime in on this. I haven't experienced or observed where kids are like, oh, you're angry, because what they tend to do is look at, well, how do you express your anger? Did breaking that glass help you? Or did it end up causing more problems. So they end up actually looking at what that result or how they manage those feelings, because you brought this up and it was really true. We talk about integration of grief on our journey. We talk about grief being a journey. It's not, we don't have certificates of completion. We have certificates of accomplishment that they go through Camp Co, because it is skills that they'll use through their lifetime over a variety of losses, and certainly in managing the loss that brought them to Adam's place. But I don't know if you want to talk about that transference possibility.
Well, I think when we bring kids into group, one of our first goals of group is to help with kind of the group cohesion and the trust that is there, so that they can feel that it's a group that it's their own and it's a safe place for them to share. So I think one of the first things that we talk about is you all have something in common, that you lost someone, but your grief experience may be different because everybody's grief journey is different. So I think we acknowledge that right away. I think the other thing that we really work on in our kind of building connections curriculum is empathy and listening to others' experiences.
Mhm.
And so maybe I don't feel angry about my loss, but I certainly understand the feeling of anger, because I might feel angry about something else in my life or relate to a story about anger. So I see that you're angry and I hear that that's your story. And my story looks different, but I also can then understand and empathize with your story.
And that's a great way to put it. I think just listening to what you're saying is that oftentimes relationships are all different. The relationship I had with my father will be different than what your relationship was with your father. So we don't assume that everyone had a Hallmark experience or a Hallmark type of relationship. So the kids are really open. And I think that's what I've observed at group is, if you give children and teens the opportunity to listen to each other's story and gain empathy, they will. I have worked with adults who may not have had an empathetic ear when they had a death or loss when they were a child, and they aren't able to mirror empathy later in life. And so we really want to try to give those opportunities to kiddos, because this helps all of us in the community when we have the empathetic skills to learn from one another and on our journeys.
Gotcha. Boy, now, when you have these groups, do you limit the number of children, and do you keep the parents out of it, or the parents welcome to attend? How do you handle the parent relationship and the group size?
Yeah, we do have a max group size that we kind of cap out on, so that the groups are about an hour and 15 minutes long, and we want to make sure that everybody has the chance to participate and to share during that time. We do have a session for parents or caregivers, the adult that's bringing the child to group, and it runs at the same time as the children and teens groups. And it really is a focused place for parents and caregivers to talk about their grief, but to also talk about strategies for helping their child with grief.
And so one of the reasons we know that transportation is an issue, can be a barrier for folks to get support. So we wanted to have groups all in one evening so that everyone in the family could have their group. So the adult caregiver has their group, the teen has their group, every age group can come one stop and have versus coming different evenings for different age groups. And we think that makes it a bit more, and we give the adult some ideas on what kind of activities were happening in groups, so that they might use them as a family beyond our group, because what happens in groups stays in group unless there's any type of suicide ideation, and then some immediate 911 and call with the parent. But that privacy, that safety, because we talked a little bit about how kiddos may have a backpack with mom's grief, with the grandma's grief, and they're carrying that because they're trying to keep the family unit moving forward. And so oftentimes kiddos may not be involved in the funeral. They may be, not asked about what kind of favorite foods would you like to have at the after part of funeral. They just may not be included in the conversation because they're just coping the best they can. So sometimes it can be a year to 2 years later that you might have Joe or Joan having a complete being angry at something, or overly angry, or overly not participating in school. And then when we delve down and we realize that no one acknowledged or validated their feelings over the death of their dad or mom. And so kiddos can start our program at any time. We typically like it about 3 months after a death, because we know some of the chaos and changes in the family may have gotten into some new pattern. Because we'd like to see everyone come to all sessions of Camp Cope so it can be as helpful as it can be. But kiddos can come at any point in time, and they can come back. And we've had children who have come started when they were 5 or 8, and they came to a couple of Camp Cope sessions, then took a break, did some other things, but then in high school came back to Camp Cope because now they're facing other decisions without that parent. So we really wanted to be available through the course of a youth's, and we now also have a virtual adult group, so that and we still call young adults 18 to 25, right? We still wanted to be available. So we do have a virtual drop-in group that folks in that age group, 18 to 25, can join.
Boy, it sounds very, very comprehensive. Stay with that thought. We're going to come right back. We're just going to take a quick sponsorship break for a few moments. And I'd like to welcome our new sponsor, Firelight Bar and Dinner Theatre. And if you're looking for a good night and a fun night out on the town, listen to this commercial.
Country roads take me home to the place where I belong, West Virginia, Mountain Mama. Comes a triple yodel.
Introducing Pacific Coast Capital, your partner in finance. We provide financing for your business. Speed, flexibility, and creativity are the foundation of our service. We'll help you navigate through change and opportunities. Our 90-plus years of experience ensures quick turnaround on loan decisions. Ride the wave to prosperity with us. Ready for new funding? Visit our website today at pacificcoastcap.com.
Thanks for rejoining us, and I'd like to thank again Kelly and Jackie for joining us from Camp Cope Gives Hope. And I'd also like to thank our last sponsor, Pacific Coast Capital. If you're looking for a small business loan, they're the place to check out. So thank you. So let's get back to Camp Cope Gives Hope. Let's start with this section by where do you actually have your programs? What are the locations where you have them? How many do you have?
So right now we have groups at our office in Henderson, and also in Summerlin. So Summerlin, we're on the campus of Roseman University, and we meet monthly. And in Henderson, we meet on the campus of Roseman University and meet monthly as well. But we've also trained about 40 school personnel in the Clark County School District to run Camp Copes on site at their individual schools.
Oh, great.
We felt during the pandemic, because we had such structure in our curriculum and we were able to do virtual groups within a week. And we continued to partner with our schools, and we ran groups during the pandemic virtually. And when we stepped back and thought, well, how can we reach more children? And prior to the pandemic, we would go out and run groups at a school site. This valley's so large and so much need, and more need brought to light because of the losses felt during the pandemic, and kids who experienced other types of deaths and losses during the pandemic that didn't get support. So we decided that if we could make our training available, and we got very good at training virtually during the pandemic, And so we made it part of our mission to provide that training to be a Camp Cope school, a part of our mission, so that we could exponentially reach more children. So while we run our Camp Cope programs in Henderson and Summerlin, we have a variety of programs out in the valley at different school locations, from elementary, middle, and high school sites.
And
And then we also have a couple community partners. Nevada Donor Network took our training, and they run some virtual Camp Cope programs as well.
so is this where your toolkits, you have toolkits, is this where the toolkits come in? Is that the training program that you give to the schools and these the Nevada Donor Program?
Yes, and just, some of us can have a hat on, social worker, counselor, but they may not have the skill set of being a facilitator group. So we have them take off all those hats, put on the facilitator hat, and we help give them the tools to run a small group program, our Camp Cope program. And what we don't charge children to come to our programs and or come to our activities for that matter. So one way that we decided that we could raise bring in some income and revenue was to charge for our training. So we do charge programs to a small fee to become Camp Cope certified, but that's how we will keep our programs free for kiddos who need them.
Gotcha. Okay, and apparently this includes, the toolkit includes 9 hours of virtual facilitator training. Did I read that right?
Yes, all of our facilitators go through 4 modules of training. We can provide these in person or virtual, or a combination of both. Our school and community partners also get continued support from Adams Place. So we don't just train them and then say, good luck. We have monthly coaching sessions that they can continue to attend as many times or for as long as possible. And this is a great place for facilitators from different locations to share successes, share challenges, brainstorm, get new ideas for their own programs.
Cool.
And then on top of that, because our coffee and coaching is virtual and they can drop in, and we feel that that's a value add to the, because we learn from them, they learn from us, continue to learn from us. But we have actually became accredited by the Association of Social Work Boards nationally, so that and we are approved in the state of Nevada for social work credit. So if you're a social worker or a therapist or a teacher, you can take our programs and get continuing education. We're trying to push this out nationally now to help other communities have their own Camp Cope programs, and now they can actually get continuing education credit if they happen to be a social worker.
Boy, there's been a lot of work put into this organization. I tell you, Kelly, I'm truly saddened for your loss, but what a tribute to Adam. What an absolute amazing tribute that you devoted so much time and helping so many other people out there. Now, in the last segment, you were talking about how the kids can come back as they progress in age. Do you get children that come back that have been through the program and want to give back and help other children in grief? Do you get that much at all, or?
We have had several. One young lady ended up making it part of her college essay application. She was one of our first junior facilitator. We do have teen facilitators that come from area high schools to get community service credits, and they can help out with the youngest group, the littles, and then they help out in a variety of ways during group nights, taking kids to the bathroom and just all the little logistic things that they can do. We had one youngster who was 5 when her dad died from a heart attack, and she was at a private school, and she just needed some support. So their mom pulled her from school, she got her relocated and found us. And so she came in and started in the program. The next year, she really mentored other 6-year-olds and said, come on in, it's okay, I lost my dad too. And that's something that a peer can do that's very magical that
Yes.
you and I can't
Yes,
do
John.
for them.
Yes. I've traveled that road.
And she ended up making grief support for children her platform as she ran for Miss Arizona. So we've had some kiddos come back and integrate and give back to others. And we love the idea of mentoring, because typically the younger the child, the more likely they will be in the program for a couple of years,
Yes.
because they are gaining those skills, those vocabulary, and creating definitions for themselves and interacting with others. What was magical for me is to see the kiddos that were in virtual Camp Cope during the pandemic then come to in-person groups and meet each other in person. And so they can be with us for a bit, because, and we talked about this a little bit. When I lost my son, I was, whatever I was, 45, I had some coping skills. I had some life experience to draw on, but people would assume, they would come up and say, wow, isn't losing a child the greatest loss of all? And I said, it's bad and it's hard, but I'm pretty sure someone who's 5, who just lost their dad or mother with not the skills, not their life experience, I'm pretty sure it's a tough thing for them as well. And so that was one of the reasons why, because some of these kiddos give me a lot of inspiration because of their bravery and their ability to learn and to cope. And so as an adult, I actually am humbled sometimes.
Well, I'm sure. And these different age programs that you have, obviously the programs have got to be tweaked, right, for each age group. As we said, it's not the same for 3 to 5 as 16 to 18. What have you found the most complicated or difficult group, if you will, to deal with? Or are they all challenging?
Oh, I think they all have different challenges when it comes to working with a specific developmental age in a group setting. And all have different kind of, I guess, rewards, if you will. And I think it really just depends, as a facilitator, what age group are you most comfortable working with, or what age group do you feel called to work with, and making sure that our facilitators are a good fit for the age group that they are working with. And we do a lot of work talking with our facilitators when they first enter our program, and giving them a realistic idea of what each group setting looks like, and then helping them kind of find their path and their way to be successful as volunteers in our program.
Yes.
One of the things I'll add is that, let's say with the littles, the 5 to 8-year-old, you might plan 5 to 6 activities, because in that age, they'll work on something. They'll say, my dad died and I'm sad. And then they'll want to go back to a play activity or art activity. And then they'll come back and say, sometimes I don't know what to do with that feeling, or I miss them when they're not there to read a book, but then they'll go back. So we need more activity for them. But as you age up, you need less activity to spur the conversation. So I think that's one bit of a difference. And this is Jackie's child life specialist wheelhouse to pinpoint age appropriate activities. And so the facilitators have those ready when they are facilitating group. So we're not at the time they're prepared when they go into group. We love our volunteers. They're the heart of our organization because they want to be there. And so we train them. They go through a background check. Not all folks who come through a training are a right fit for facilitator, but that's okay. We have other roles that people can do if they want in a volunteer sense. And typically when you become a volunteer, you're with us for a while, because they do get to have interaction with, they're not just packing a lunchbox, right? They are actually interacting and making a difference in a child's life.
Sure. And I'd like to talk a little bit more about the volunteers in the next segment, because you're right. I think the volunteers, they're the lifeline of any nonprofit organization. No organization can work without them. So, but you've also, I want to touch on accreditation. You were recently accredited.
Yes.
And that was by whom, and how did that come about? And congratulations.
Thank you. It was a long process, very rigorous vetting that they put us through, but it's the National Association of Social Work Boards, which means that any social worker in any state other than New York and New Jersey can take one of our webinars or a training or attend a conference and get credit for it. So Jackie's actually doing our next webinar, which is a focus on working with littles, because and that's going to be a great webinar. But we have already people signed up from North Carolina, Georgia, Utah to attend that webinar. So
Great.
yeah, it's very exciting. And we're on, they'll give us a year and then we have to keep applying for that. So they really, that vetting and getting that accreditation we're very proud of it, but we'll have to work hard to keep it.
Oh, well, of course, but I'm sure you will, because if it's not easy to get, I'm sure you'll keep it. And so it sounds like you're expanding, not just in Nevada, but you're expanding and reaching out to the rest of the nation, and you're already getting people signed up. So you're planning on doing more of these webinars? You're going to see how this one goes, and
We have
you've got a whole series of them planned.
Mm-hmm. And we do have a program that we train that's in Spokane, Washington. So I want to give anyone who is from that area or have family in that area. It's called Rise Northwest. And the family that started that program came to me and said, we've heard about you. We've heard about your program. We want to take a look at it because we want to start. They had lost their father. They wanted to, the wife had wanted to start a program in Spokane. And I said, well, I know when I started this, I needed a curriculum and I couldn't find one. And so we created one. And so she went around, looked around the country and came back and said, no, we want to take your program. So they were our first out of state group that we trained, and they're doing well. And we're excited for that. We have some folks in Ohio that have trained, and they're doing programs in community centers. So yeah, and because it all helps us, and I'll do a plug, we have our second annual national conference on children's grief support groups, which will be November 15th this year. We did our first one last November, and November is Children's Grief Awareness Month. So we have a variety of activities going on, but we're very proud that we were able to host a national conference. And we're hoping to bring people in from all over the country. We brought in speakers from all over the country to help with the sessions that day. And I think we're kind of setting a path forward that we want to be a trusted source of education for those in the field, community helpers, professionals. You don't have to be looking for continuing education credit. If you're someone who works with children in any capacity and want to have more knowledge on how to help be grief sensitive and be supportive, we hope you'll find our webinars helpful.
I'm sure they will. There's no doubt in my mind, just the time and effort that you're putting into all of this to make it happen and worthwhile. You're having a real positive impact on all these lives. So, and you have every right to be proud. We're going to take another sponsorship break, and I hope you'll stay with us. And for those of you who are small businesses that are looking to start 401k programs for employees, or you want your 401k reviewed, please listen to this message.
At Lucia Capital Group, we've been helping people manage risk and plan for their future through some of the most challenging market conditions. Volatility in the stock market will never go away, so it's really all about your strategy and how you react to it. Our bucket strategy aims to help you manage your financial goals even during the most uncertain times. I'm Joshua Dowden. I've been working with clients here for more than 16 years, and I can help you as well. My office is right here in the heart of Summerlin, just north of Charleston Boulevard. Don't let the stock market determine the quality of your retirement. Call me today for a free consultation. 702-508-6421. That's 702-508-6421.
Welcome back to our program, and thanks again to Kelly and Jackie for sharing their knowledge on Camp Coke Gives Hope with us today. And thank you, Joshua Dowden of Lucia Capital, for sponsoring the program and for all the financial advice you've given me over the years. I appreciate it. So let's talk about your plans for expansion here in Las Vegas. Do you have any new projects that you're working on and new locations that you're dealing with?
Jackie just finished a survey with our families,
Yeah, we do an annual needs survey for our families. And so we are looking at a few different things for next program year. And one of those, we are confirming that we are adding a program location in North Las Vegas. And that'll be in the Centennial Hills area at Centennial Hills Hospital. So we're very excited to be able to add that as an easier location for some of our families on that side of town to come to our in-person Camp Cope groups. And we also heard back from our families that they would like more of our community family activities to be available for them. And so those are just different community events that we organize and invite our families to participate in. And so families that are currently participating in our groups or alumni of our groups can come and do, for example, we're doing a family fun walk at Sunset Park at the end of February.
Oh, nice.
So adding some more of those to our calendar throughout the next year.
Mhm. Nice,
Yeah.
boy. It's literally is a full-time job for both of you, plus some others. So now how many paid staff do you have?
We have about 7 that are
Wow.
either contracted independent contractors. Jackie and I are the full-time staff. But we have a variety of folks who keep from our website through a business manager, grants manager, to our communications director who gets a great newsletter out there and does our social media for us. We're small but mighty, and and our footprint has all the components of a well-run organization.
Yes,
We're
sounds
just
like it.
But one of the things that we want to throw out there, we've traveled the country, and Jackie and I have attended the National Alliance for Children's Grief annual symposium, which has brought us into contact with people from around the country and that work in this field. And we visited children's bereavement centers where they have their own facility, and that's our wish, to help create a standalone facility that's very home-like and provides some outdoor space. Because that's the one thing that we're missing right now, is having a permanent location for what we do.
Yes. It'll happen.
Yes.
It'll happen at the rate you're growing. So with such a small staff, as you said, your volunteers are your lifeline. How many volunteers do you have approximately? Do you know?
Oh, yeah.
How many?
Like currently right now, 20 volunteers.
And you're always looking for more, of course.
Mhm.
Are there any qualifications that you require from them? Do they have to have college degrees or child psychology degrees or anything like that? Or they just have to have their hearts in the right place?
This is the time of year that we like to put out our call for volunteers, especially as we prepare for the next program year. And that gives people time to get in, get their training completed, get their background check completed. With the addition of our new location, we're going to need additional volunteers, more than we had during this program year. And we are just looking for adults who are in a place where they want to give back to kids and families in our community.
2
And
hours
as
a month, and then
it's about a 2-hour a month commitment. As Kelly said before, the role of facilitation, we do provide all the training that people need to feel comfortable and confident to run groups. And we also understand that being a grief group facilitator is not a role that's going to be a fit for everyone. So we have other roles, even throughout the course of a Camp Cope group meeting, where they can greet families or help them check in or help with a survey or help with a serving snack. So there are multiple roles that a volunteer can take on within the Camp Cope structure or our Adams Place overall organization.
Well, it sounds like there's lots of opportunities for people out there willing, and it doesn't sound overly demanding if you're just asking for 2 hours a month. That's a relatively small commitment. So anybody looking to help out there, 2 hours a month is not too much, and we'll be doing a great service for this organization and certainly for the kids, kids themselves. So now, how do you get funded?
wow, we earn every dollar. I'm telling you. In 2017, we co-wrote a bill that became a law, stating about it, to create the Children's Bereavement Trust Fund, because it was very difficult for us to find a funding mechanism. And as we shared, that we started during a very turbulent economic time in our community, which meant we were really needed, but funding sources were very scarce and more towards helping unhoused youth or food scarcity and challenges. So by creating that bill, there 50 cents per death certificate goes into a pot. And it's managed by Health and Human Services in the state of Nevada. And for programs who have all the characteristics and all the good standards and best practices can apply for funding. And we happen to have those in place. So we get some funding from the state of Nevada. Clark County is a big supporter of our programs. We've received an outside agency grant. And then family foundations provide unrestricted funding. Some are specific for things that they would like to fund. We had a family foundation that wanted to provide a van for us because we take around crates and materials and supplies, but we're actually looking for a sponsor who might want to sponsor the insurance for that van right now because it's so expensive. But we have an upcoming fundraiser. So between grants, family and corporate foundations, so when corporation and when employees donated $42,000 to us last year. We're so incredibly grateful for that.
Sorry, the Win Corporation
Win and their
and
Win
the
employees. Yes.
they gave 42,000. Thank you to the Win employees and the Win organization.
Yes. So meaningful for us. And they continue to help and volunteer with us as well as far as the employees.
Bless their hearts.
So we have an upcoming, and then we have fundraisers. So it's a pie. There's all, the fundraising, the grants, donations from donors or corporate donors. And then we are tasked, we run 3 fundraisers a year. We have upcoming our golf tournament, our first annual Chip In for Children. We have our Vintage and Vibes, and the golf tournament is April 18th. And our Vintage and Vibes, just a wine tasting, is on May 22nd. And then in the fall, on November the 7th, we have Power the Purse. So we have 3 fundraisers that our small staff put together and put on. But they've been very successful, and it's a way for us to engage in the community. We just found out today SolUp became our event partner for our Chip In for Children golf tournament, and that's a new community partner with us. So that's exciting for us to share our message, have others share in the commitment to our mission.
Do you apply for any grants?
We're all the time. Anyone send some info out there for us. But that's the grants from Clark County, from the state of Nevada, corporations. Oftentimes people come knocking on our door. They're looking for a children's charity to support. They're looking for their particular area of interest is mental health and wellness. Well, we are definitely a spindle on that wheel. We do not have a full-time grant writer. We are always just kind of looking and being in touch with what's available. But we do. It is a definite pie chart as far as having grants, family foundation donations, donors, corporate, and our individual fundraisers that we do.
So somehow you managed to keep things afloat and everything turn around. It's been wonderful having you guys on this program. It truly has, and what an amazing job you do with the staff you've got. You are really moving mountains. There's no question about it. And as I said, sorry for your loss. And Adam's got to be looking down from the heavens with absolute pride. So thank you for being with us this week and for being our guest and taking time out of your very, very busy schedules. I know how busy they are.
Thank you.
And I'd also like to thank our show's producer and station owner, John Stiles, for allowing me to host this program. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Firelight Barn, Pacific Coast Capital, and Lucia Capital Group, and my business partner for 25 years, RJ Champion. You'll see his message at the end of this program. And finally, I'd like to thank you, the viewers, for tuning into this program. If you have any questions or comments, please reach out to me, Stephen at thegiftofgiving.vegas. I'd love to hear from you. And I hope you'll join us next week when our guest will be from ALS Foundation. They're it's the Lou Gehrig's disease, for those of you who are familiar with it. We look forward to having them. And in the meantime, please stay safe, have a great week, and be kind to one another. Bye for now.
Mr. R.J. Champion is proud to sponsor WWDB-TV's series, The Gift of Giving, and wishes the program much success. Congratulations and gratitude to the featured guests and the organizations they represent. Our community is well served by your tireless efforts to make Nevada a better state for all its residents.